The snow is pulled back from the trees. A ranger drives a slow patrol on a remote service road. The tires hum over wet gravel. Puddles flash like small mirrors. He stops at a lock gate near a wetlands pullout. The air smells wrong. Not just mud and melt. Something sweet, stale, and out of place. He steps out. Wind pushes reeds in a slow sway. A raven calls and goes quiet. He scans the ditch line. Blue plastic peaks through willow stems. Two blue coolers sit half-hidden in brush. Lids taped. Handles muddy. 10 feet away, a torn backpack strap hangs on a twig. It looks ripped, not cut. He puts on gloves. He photographs the scene. Tag. Angle. Distance. He notes the time and the weather. He does not open the coolers. That is for evidence techs. Near the post, something else glints. A small zip bag. Inside is a trail cam SD card. It is dry. It is sealed with a strip of clear tape. He radios it in. Calm voice. Exact location. Potential illegal dumping. Possible property for missing persons. He sets a perimeter with tape. He waits with the wind and the reeds. Later, in a clean room, a tech slides the SD card into a reader. Frames load. Night images. Headlights. A flatbed shape. Straps over a boxy silhouette. One frame is sharp. A detail no one can unsee. We will not show that image. We will not describe it in detail. It is enough to say it changes the case. It turns a mystery into a decision. It points to a person, not to weather or luck. The ranger writes his report. The families get a call, and a line enters the record. It wasn't an animal. It was a choice. We use aliases here. We will call them Claire, 27, and Joel, 28. Claire worked as a junior architect. She liked clean lines, good coffee, and trail maps. Joel taught high school science. He fixed bikes on weekends and filmed their trips. They lived in the Pacific Northwest. They hiked most months. Short alpine routes in the Cascades. Coast range forest loops after rain. They knew layers. They knew to tell someone their plan. They knew to turn back when weather turned. Alaska was a shared dream. Big country. Big silence. They saved for a year. They chose the Chugach for access and views. Close to roads, but still wild. They booked a small lodge as a base. 5 days total. 2 travel days. 3-day hikes, out and back. Their plan was simple. Breakfast at the lodge. Drive a short distance. Park at a sign trail. Hike 2 to 4 hours. Be back well before dark. Repeat the next day on a new trail. They prepared like they always did. Weather check. Offline maps downloaded. Bear spray borrowed from the lodge. Snacks and water in small day packs. Rental SUV gassed up the night before. They told family the plan. They promised to send a photo each morning. On the last morning anyone heard from them, they did. A quick text went out to a small group thread. A photo of pancakes, steam rising. 2 pairs of boots by the door. A note. Short hike today. Back by lunch. Nothing dramatic. Just a routine, start to a routine hike. Friends later said this fit them. Early start. Thoughtful route. No risk for risk's sake. They chased quiet, not danger. They left the lodge after breakfast. Light drizzle. Low cloud. Greens turned darker, richer wet. They drove toward a valley trail locals liked when the weather was soft. It starts an easy forest. It follows an old track. It looks safe. It looks simple. They parked for a trail that starts easy, then disappears. The manager was on the porch when they stepped out. She saw 2 small day packs. Lightweight rain shells. Trail shoes, not boots. They smiled, said good morning, and held the door for another guest. Outside, rain made a fine mist. Wipers hissed on parked cars. Clouds sat low on the ridges. Spruce tips dripped. The gravel looked dark and slick. Routes on the trail would be the same. They paused at the lobby table. A binder lay open to local notes. Someone had written in neat block letters. Try the overlook road if the trail is crowded. They read it. They took a phone photo of the page. Maybe, one of them said. Then they thanked the manager and walked out. They loaded the rental SUV with quick, practice moves. Phones, maps, bear spray, water. The manager noticed how tidy they were. No loose gear. No big backpacks. It looked like a short out and back. They told her their plan. a quick forest trail, and back by lunch. She nodded. She had heard the same plan from many guests in shoulder season. Watch the roots, she said. The first mile is slick and drizzle. They promised to be careful. The SUV rolled away. Taillights flashed to the stop sign. They turned toward the valley road. The morning stayed gray and steady. Housekeeping changed sheets, then moved to the next cabin. The manager checked the clock, took 2 calls, and set out the tea urn. Rain kept its soft rhythm on the awning. By 11, other guests returned. Boots thumped. Someone laughed about fog at the overlook. The key for Claire and Joel's cabin was not on the board. At noon, checkout time passed. The parking spot for their cabin stayed empty. No key. No note. The manager tried the number on their card. It rang once and went a voicemail. She left a calm message. Hope you're safe. Stop by the office when you're back. At 1, she walked to their cabin and knocked. Silence. She used the master key and looked in. Bag sat by the wall, zipped. Toothbrushes stood in a cup. A jacket hung on a chair. Nothing looked disturbed. It looked like people who meant to return soon. Outside, drizzle turned to a light, steady rain. The valley kept its low ceiling. She checked the guest book again. Her eyes paused on the line about the overlook road. If the trailhead had been busy, they might have tried the detour. By late afternoon, worry edged her routine. The phone still went a voicemail. The key was still missing. The SUV was still gone. They had left for a short hike on a simple trail. They were not back. The manager unlocks the door with a coworker present. She calls out. No answer. They step inside and pause. Bags stand by the wall, zipped and ready. Toothbrushes sit in a cup by the sink. A small bottle of shampoo is uncapped in the shower. 2 jackets rest on a chair, still dry from the morning. A phone charger is plugged in near the bed. A folded paper map lies on the table under a room key sleeve. Nothing is tipped over. Nothing is broken. It does not look rushed. It looks paused. She notes the time and backs out. She locks the door again. At the desk, she tries their number. Voicemail. She sends a short text. Checking in. Please stop by the office. She leaves a note on the door. An hour later, she calls non-emergency dispatch. She explains it calmly. Missed checkout. Property left behind. Vehicle gone. A trooper on duty takes the details and asks for the plate on the rental agreement. He says he will drive past the signed trailhead first. Rain keeps a steady beat on the awning. Afternoon turns slow and long. Housekeeping waits to clean the room. The key hook stays empty. The trooper calls back before dusk. He has checked the trailhead lot. 4 vehicles sit in the gravel. None match the rental's make or plate. He also sweeps the first half mile of the path with another officer. They see fresh boot tracks from many hikers, but nothing they can tie to the couple. No car at the trailhead remains the bigger problem. The manager writes a short incident note for the lodge file. She adds a line about the guest book tip. Try the overlook road if crowded. If they drove past the main lot, they might have taken that spur. If they did, they could have parked somewhere unmarked. Evening comes on. The room is still full of their things. The phones still go to voicemail. The SUV is still not at the obvious place. The lodge is used to late returns. It is not used to neat rooms that feel frozen in time. This is not a late checkout. This is a missing plan. If they hiked, where's the car? If they drove, where do they go? By morning, a small command post opens in a community hall. A whiteboard lists names, times, and radio call signs. Topographic maps cover 2 tables. Red grease, pencil marks grids. Blue marks waterways and culverts. Yellow marks road gates and pullouts. Briefing is simple and calm. 2 troopers lead. Volunteers sign in. 9 teams clip on bells and GPS collars. A helicopter crew checks fuel and weather. Everyone repeats the plan back. Teams move out in pairs. They sweep the sign trail first. 1 mile up, then another. They call out names at set intervals. They flag side paths with bright tape. They log each turn on a clipboard. Terrain pushes back. Alder knots across old cuts. Devil's Club crowds narrow benches, spined and wet. Drainages fall away fast. Moss hides holes between roots. Boots slide. Progress slows to minutes per 100 yards. 9 handlers work wind and contour. They cast dogs along edges where scent might pool. Rain dilutes trails. Low cloud locks sent to the ground in strange places. Handlers mark interest points, but get no solid pull. The helicopter makes a first pass. It runs the valley axis, doors off. Observers scan for color: blue, red, bright plastic. From above, forest looks smooth and unbroken. Ravines hide their floors under fir and spruce. A second pass follows ridges and cut lines. Nothing stands out. At noon, the command post updates the map. Clear grids get a thin red slash. Unsearched grids wait in pale pencil. A logistics lead sets water and dry socks by the door. A medic checks feet and hands as teams rotate. The standard model says this. Most missing hikers leave a car at a trailhead. That car anchors the search. You expand from it, spoke and will. Today there is no anchor. The rental SUV is not at the lot. No one is seen on the main road. Without the car, every theory feels weaker. If they started on the sign trail, the SUV should be there. If they tried the overlook road, it should be near that spur. If they change plans, the map could be anywhere. Afternoon teams push into side draws. Brush snaps back and hides their passage. They check old blazes on trees. They find boot prints, but rain has softened edges. No print is distinct enough to match. They recover a candy wrapper with no tie to the couple. They log it anyway. By evening, the board shows effort, not answers. Canines are tired and calm. The helicopter stands down for light and fuel. The sign trail and the first set of spurs are cleared to reasonable confidence. Command posts live on next steps. They list them in neat rows. Expand grids east. Recheck pullouts. Knock on cabins along the service road. Request traffic cam stills at highway mile markers. Broadcast a missing vehicle bulletin. One line underlines the rest. No car trailhead equals no anchor. Adjust search accordingly. Hope comes from a rural gas stop. An attendant calls the tip line. He thinks he saw the couple days before the alert. He remembers a gray SUV. He remembers a paper map and 2 coffees. He is sure enough to make the call. 2 investigators drive out. The station sits by a bend in the highway. A hand-painted open sign swings in drizzle. Inside, the attendant points to a small camera above the door. Check the recorder, he says. They follow him to a back room. The DVR is old. A power flicker hit the area last week. The unit restarted, then wrote over its index. Files open to static or freeze on smeared frames. Timestamps jump. The hour they need is a block of noise. They try again with fresh cables. Same result. They bag the drive for the lab, just in case. They thank the attendant for the call. They note his description and the receipt rolls. They leave with less than they hoped. Word spreads anyway. For a few hours, morale lifts at the command post. Then the lab calls back, corrupted beyond repair. The board gets another thin red slash that means no lead. Weather turns. Drizzle becomes cold rain. Wind pushes through the valley and knocks sent off lines. 9 teams work harder for less. The helicopter sits out 2 days under a low ceiling. Snow gathers on ridges and slides down the treeline. Volunteers thin. People return to jobs and school. Crews shrink to core search and local SAR. They still sweep drainages and check spurs. They still call names on the hour. Footprints blur. Creek edges ice over and hide tracks. The maps grow heavy with ink. Grids cleared. Pullouts checked. Cabins knocked. Nothing anchors the search because the car is still missing. Late in the season, the teams push one more loop. A brief sunbreak shows frost steaming off grass. Then the first real snow arrives. It fills boot holes and erases flagging. It lays a white sheet over the valley. The lead trooper reads the statement at dusk. The active search is suspended for winter. The case remains open. Tips are still welcome. Patrols will still watch pullouts and gates. The lodge manager locks their room and keeps their note. The families fly home with folders and hope. Phones stay near at night. The command post comes down. The file moves to a quiet shelf. Snow closes the door. The valley goes still. Time drifts and holds its breath. 8 months later, meltwater gives back what snow took. Spring melt opens the back roads. A ranger rolls slow on patrol, windows cracked for sound and smell. He notes culverts, blowdowns, and locked gates as he goes. His log shows the valley spur is due today. At a steel gate, he idles. Mud holds a clean set of tire ruts that were not here last week. They enter, turn around, and exit. Fresh. Edges still sharp. One rut shows a different tread on the right rear, like a recent replacement. He parks clear of the gate and sets hazards. Wind moves through willow and reed. A jay calls twice and goes quiet. He scans the pullout and the ditch line. Blue plastic catches his eye in the brush. He steps closer, slow and deliberate. Two blue coolers sit half-hidden under willow stems. Lids taped. Handles muddy. They have been dragged, not carried. The brush is bent, not broken. He puts on gloves. He photographs the scene from wide to close. Gate, ruts, coolers, surrounding brush, shoe positions. He notes GPS, time, weather, wind. He does not cut the tape. He checks for weight by lifting gently at a corner. Each cooler is heavy and sloshes faintly. He logs that and sets them back as found. A few feet away, he sees a small spill of pellets and dry kernels. Near them, a milk crate holds used bait jars with sticky lids. Labels show various scents. This area is not a legal bait site. He notes possible illegal dumping of bait materials. On the ground beside the crate lies a fleece cap. Gray. The tag at the back is torn down the seam. He photographs front and back, then leaves it in place. 10 feet from the coolers, mounted low on a willow trunk, sits a trail camera. The strap is sun-faded. The battery indicator is dead. No fresh tracks stand directly in front of it. The ground here is moss, not mud. He follows the strap to the back of the trunk. Tucked into a crook, protected from rain, he finds a small zip bag. Inside is an SD card and a folded note with a date. The bag is dry and sealed with clear tape. He radios dispatch. Calm voice. Exact mile mark from the last sign. Possible illegal dumping. Bait materials, coolers, trail camera present. SD card located. Securing scene. He requests a trooper and evidence techs. ETA is given. He acknowledges. He builds a simple perimeter with flagging tape and cones. He places a hazard triangle near the gate to keep any driver back. He logs wind shifts and light. He waits 5 minutes, then does a second sweep for safety. No people, no fresh wildlife sign. He collects only what policy allows ahead of techs. The SD card is already bagged and dry. He double bags it, marks time and location, and signs the seal. Everything else remains undisturbed. He updates dispatch. Scene stable, no public present. He stays in view of the items, but off the track line to preserve impressions. He takes wide photos every 15 minutes to document conditions. The pullout grows quiet again. Wind moves the reeds. Rain spits and stops. From the gate back to the ruts, the story looks simple and wrong. Someone came in, dumped things, and left fast. The ranger holds the line until the first cruiser arrives. The coolers, the jars, the torn tag cap, and the little card will tell the rest. Scene secured. In the lab, a tech dries the bag, logs the seal, and opens it. The SD card slides into a right block reader. Directory loads. One active night. Dozens of short clips. Motion trigger bursts. Frames appear in black and white IR. Tall grass glows pale. The gate post sits at frame left. Road fills the center. Timestamps mark a warm spell in late spring. Headlights bloom into view. A flatbed pickup noses past the camera, then stops. It reverses into the pullout and angles toward the brush. Its bed rides high. A homemade bumper guard shows on the back. Left side carries a distinct V-shaped dent near the toe point. Next burst. The flatbed returns loaded. A midsize SUV sits on the bed. Straps run across both front wheels. Another strap crosses the rear axle. The body shape fits the couple's rental model class. Roofline, rear window, and tail lamp outline match. Details are soft but consistent. The plate on the truck is obscured. It looks coated with mud or taped over. The camera angle is low, so the plate sits just out of view in several frames. The bumper dent is not. It repeats across multiple clips like a signature. More bursts show small adjustments. Brake lights flare. Someone steps briefly into the edge of frame. Just a leg, then darkness. No face. No clear clothing. The person stays outside the IR hot zone. Final clips show the flatbed leaving. Bed still loaded. Headlights point down the spur. The truck pauses at the gate, then turns its lights off for a moment. It rolls forward on parking lights and disappears. A second folder holds 3 stills from earlier that night. The same flatbed passes empty toward the spur road. A half hour later, it returns loaded. Timeline, in load out. All within 40 minutes. All during the warm window when roads soften and ruts stay crisp. The tech notes key features. Flatbed with homemade bumper guard. Unique dent left of center. Midsize SUV on bed with wheel straps visible. Plate area obscured. No faces captured. Timestamps align with regional temperature spike. The images do not prove whose SUV it is. They do show someone moved a vehicle at night, fast, and with purpose. The case file gets a new anchor. A truck, a dent, a method. If that SUV is theirs, who hauled it? And from where? Evidence text log the scene and bag items. Chain of custody stays tight. Nothing leaves without a label and a time. The fleece cap goes first. Gray, with a torn tag. In the lab, a fiber analyst lifts threads from the inner band. Polyester microfleece with a common weave. Not unique by itself. They compare it to public photos the family shared. The couple's last breakfast image. The woman's jacket shows a matching nap and pile. Same fiber mix, same dye range. They request the original photo file. Metadata confirms time and place. A second pass uses tape lifts on the jacket sleeves from luggage the family provided. Microscopy shows cross-consistent fibers between jacket and cap. Conclusion is careful, consistent with contact, not exclusive. It links, but does not overstate. The bait jars are sticky and dull. Labels list sweet and fish scents. A Chemtech swabs residue. Gas chromatography flags light motor oil mixed into the slurry. Not normal for bait scent. A sediment sample from jar threads shows fine glacial silt, powdery, pale, angular grains. That points to recent handling near cold, silta runoff, culverts, meltwater creeks, lake inlets. The field team marks culverts on the map with a fresh circle. Near the gate, tire impressions hold in packed mud where shade kept them damp. A cast tech mixes dental stone and pours 3 molds. Patterns show an aggressive, all-terrain tread, deep center blocks with stepped shoulders. Measurements match a common LT size. 3 tracks repeat the same brand pattern. The right rear is different, an odd replacement with a tighter shoulder siping. That mismatch is a tell. It will matter later. On one wheel strap found near the brush, a tech spots a tiny paint chip lodged in a frayed edge. They float it off, dry it, and mount it. Layer count, primer, sealer, top coat, clear. Top coat tests as a single stage aftermarket gray used in body shops for utility trucks. Pigment ratio and flake size match a narrow supplier code range from the last decade. It is not an OEM factory mix. It is the kind you buy when you repair a bumper at home or in a small shop. The log captures the big 4. Cap fibers consistent with the woman's jacket in the last photo. Bait jar residue with motor oil and glacial silt. Tire impressions, 3 matching, 1 odd. Paint chip, aftermarket gray, likely from a flatbed bumper or guard. None of it solves the case alone. Together, it sketches a method. A truck with 1 mismatched tire, a freshly painted bumper, and hands that worked near cold, silta water. The map narrows. The search changes shape. Analysts build a road and water model. They start with what a loaded flatbed can do. Weight limits. Turn radius. Grade. Road width underbrush. Where can a driver go at night without getting stuck? They stack map layers. Public roads. Old logging spurs. Utility easements. Seasonal gates. They add culvert locations and low spots that collect meltwater. They mark places where a truck can back and turn with a vehicle on the bed. The SD timeline helps. 40 minutes between in and out. That rules out far loops. It suggests a short haul from a nearby choke point, a culvert mouth, a ditch crossing, or a lake edge with firm gravel. They circle 2 clusters on the map. Cluster 1, a string of unmapped spurs that end near a narrow cove. Cluster 2, a glacier-fed lake with a service road and 3 culverts. Both are reachable from the gate without hitting the highway. Both give cover from the main road. A drone team goes up at first light. They fly the spurs in Cluster 1. No obvious scars. No recent slide marks. They shift to Cluster 2. From 200 feet, the water looks black and calm. At the first culvert, the gravel looks fresh. Tire ruts fan, then stops short of the edge. One rut shows a different tread on the right rear. The same mismatch from the gate. They hover lower. A thin sheen ripples on the pool below the pipe. It could be from old oil or disturbed sediment. Downstream, reeds are bent in a single direction, as if dragged. The team marks the spot and radios it in. A field unit tapes the area. They take samples of the sheen for the lab. They call for divers. The channel is short and cold. It runs from the culvert pool to a narrow lake cove. Visibility is fair in the shallows, then drops at the drop-off. Divers grid the first 10 meters with a guideline. They move slow to keep silt down. On the second pass, a diver's light hits metal. He frees a hubcap wedged under gravel at the lip of the drop-off. Near it, his glove closes on a plastic trim clip. He bags both, then signals up. On shore, techs rinse and photograph the pieces. The hubcap's design matches the rental model's wheel option. The clip's part number range matches the same model class for recent years. They note probable match, not confirmed. They log GPS, depth, and distance from the culvert. The map gets a new arrow. From the gate to the culvert. From the culvert to the cove. From the cove to deeper water. The find is small but sharp. A hubcap and a clip do not prove a whole car, but they tie the flatbed route to water and to that model. If pieces came off here, where did the rest of the vehicle go? A week later, a boat eases into a narrow cove. Side-scan sonar paints the bottom in gray bands. On the third pass, a shape appears. Boxy. Upright. Still. They drop a marker buoy. A small ROV goes down first. Its light sweeps glass and metal. It is a mid-size SUV, sitting level on the lake bed. Windows look closed. Silt hugs the tires. Divers enter with a guideline. They circle slow to protect the scene. They photograph badges, wheels, and body lines. They confirm the model class. They log depth and temperature. No doors are opened. Recovery is careful. Lift bags float the weight just enough to slide straps under the frame. A boom truck on shore takes the load. The SUV rises inch by inch, dripping dark water and weed. It settles onto a padded flatbed and is tarped tight. At the evidence bay, the team does a control drain. They set pans to catch water for sampling. They disconnect the battery. They bag loose items without rifling. The goal is simple: preserve electronics. A tech removes the head unit and the telematics/GPS module as a single assembly. It goes into a dry box with desiccant. Later, in a clean lab, they open the case, clean contacts, and seed a data bridge. They image the storage chip on a write block. They do not power the unit in the car. The dump yields partial logs. Not full navigation history, just what the unit keeps by default. Recent routes. Last breadcrumbs. Cell pings where it could see towers. GPS pings where it hit sky. A simple story appears and points on a map. Morning. The SUV leaves the lodge. It travels toward the official trailhead. Then, a turn away from the sign and into logging roads. Speed drops. Breadcrumbs space closer together. Midday pings trace a spur near a culvert. The path curls, stops, repositions, stops again. Then a cluster of short moves and pauses within a few hundred feet. After that, the log goes quiet. No more GPS. No more cell. Power likely cut, or the unit submerged. The tow yard confirms the plate from rental records. The wheel design and a missing hubcap match the piece found at the culvert pool. A trim clip from the same model snaps into place on a test mount. The cove, the culvert, and the module now point to one chain. They drove off the main road, reached the spur, And then the SUV's brain went dark near the culvert. So how did it end up in the cove? The answer sits in the earlier SD card. Those night frames show a flatbed with a loaded SUV leaving the gate. The plate is hidden. The dented bumper is not. The unit's last pings die by the culvert. The truck on the SD card carries a silent SUV later. That means someone moved it after power loss. Someone chose to take it from ground to water. Not weather. Not chance. A hand on a winch. A plan in the dark. Investigators canvass the area. They ask about a flatbed with a homemade bumper guard and a V-shaped dent. Locals nod. Yeah, that old hauler, one says. Works cash jobs. Moves junk. Hates trespassers. The tips point to a man who keeps to himself. He lives on a leased lot at the edge of an industrial strip. A fence of pallets and wire screens the view. A shipping container serves as an office. A tarp covers spare parts. They drive by, slow and lawful. A flatbed sits inside the fence. The bumper shows a dent left of center, the same shape seen on the SD card. 3 tires share one tread. The right rear shows a different pattern, like a recent replacement. They log plates, note times, and leave. They widen the canvas. At a small tire shop, a manager checks his book. A month ago, he mounted one LT tire on an older flatbed. Right rear. Cash sale. He remembers the truck because the bumper looked home-built. No name on the slip, but the tread pattern matches the odd impression of the gate. At a body supply counter, a clerk recalls mixing a single-stage gray last year. Utility grade. Guy said it was for a bumper, she says. Paid cash. She shows the batch code in the log. It falls inside the supplier range the lab flagged from the paint chip on the strap. No customer info, but the match narrows the circle. A game warden adds a note. He has cited the same flatbed driver before. Not crimes. Citations for removing abandoned junk from game land without a permit and leaving debris at a pullout. The man argued and paid the fines. He warned the warden about people wandering where they don't belong. At a diner near the lot, a server offers a small detail. The driver eats late and alone. He sits where he can see the door. He talks to no one. When strangers park near his fence, he stares until they move. Records show no company filings. No salvage license. No business name on a truck. Just a plate and a P.O. box. No felony record. 2 minor priors for equipment and dumping. The name comes through a patchwork of sources. A storage lease. A P.O. box card. A traffic stop from years back. Gareth Pike, alias here. Late 40s. Local for a decade. No listed employer. The total picture is cautious and clear. A flatbed with a dented bumper that matches the SD frames. 3 matching tires, one odd like the gate impressions and tire shop note. Access to aftermarket gray paint tied to the chip profile. Citations for off-books junk removal on public land near pullouts and gates. Statements that he dislikes trespassers and avoids contact. None of this proves a crime by itself. Investigators write it exactly that way. Consistent with, not identical to, supports, not establishes. They set quiet surveillance. They photograph the truck from public space. They log movements at dawn and late night. They see tow straps hanging from a peg in the open bay. They note a chain with a bright spot of fresh wear. The case file shifts tone. It now names a person of interest for the court. Not accused. Not convicted. A person whose tools, habits, and truck fit the method. The next step requires a judge. They begin the affidavit for a search warrant. What they find, or do not find, will decide the path forward. A judge signs the warrant before dawn. The affidavit cites the SD frames, the dented bumper, the paint chip profile, the tire mismatch, and prior citations. The plan is calm entry, clear commands, strict documentation. At first light, the team parks outside the fence. Knock and announce. He answers the door of the shop bay. Hands visible. He steps aside. An officer explains the warrant and scope. Body cams roll. A scene log starts. They split into pairs. One pair secures the office container. One pair clears the shop. Another holds the yard and gate. The shop smells of solvent and dust. On a bench, ratchets, straps, and a paint tray. An evidence tech photographs wide, medium, close. She numbers every item before a glove ever touches it. Two-toe straps hang from a hook. Both show scuffs and faint gray streaks. Cotton swabs lift trays from the fibers. Bag. Seal. Initial. Time. A small paint chip flakes from the edge of one strap as it is gently moved. It goes into its own vial. Later, in the lab, the chip's microlayers and pigment ratio will read consistent with the earlier aftermarket gray from the dump site strap. For now, the field note is cautious. Visible gray transfer present. A tech opens a red-tooled drawer by the drill press. Inside, mixed hardware, a small magnet tray, and 4 lug nuts that do not match the truck on site. Thread and seat profile fit a mid-size SUV pattern used by the couple's rental class. They bag each nut separately and note the drawer position. Out back, a shed freezer hums. It is plugged in. Inside, only ice on clean shelves. No food. No tools. A tech applies luminol per protocol. Under blue light, broad swipe marks appear along the side walls and lip. No graphic detail is discussed. The log records patterns consistent with recent wipe down. They swab the drain, hinge, and gasket. On the pegboard, a heavy tow chain hangs at shoulder height. Fresh metal rub marks show on 2 links, bright against older rust. Near the hook, a small tuft of synthetic fiber clings. Color, muted teal gray. They lift it with clean tape and compare it later to the torn backpack strap from the gate area. Microscopy will show matching fiber type and dye range. The field note stays careful. Fibers consistent with strap sample. A shelf holds wheel chocks, ratchet handles, and a roll of wheel strap webbing. One roll has a frayed edge. They bag a section for comparison to the strap in the SD frames. Outside, a detective photographs the flatbed. The bumper dent sits left of center, same shape and depth as the card images suggest. Tires, 3 match brand and tread. The right rear is the odd one. They cast the tread with gel for later overlay against the gate impressions. The search runs by the book. Every bag gets a label, a seal, a signature. The inventory is read back aloud. He is advised and transported for interview. The lot is resecured. Nothing here proves the whole case, but each small piece fits the method already on paper. The straps, the paint, the nuts, the freezer, the chain. All consistent with a truck that moved a mid-size SUV and a man who cleaned up after. The interview room is plain. A camera blinks red. He sits with hands on the table. An officer reads his rights. He says he understands. He agrees to talk. He starts with a flat no. He says he does not know the couple. He says he never met them, never spoke to them. He says he is a hauler. He moves what people dump for cash. Old fridges, broken trailers, abandoned cars that clog the woods. He says spring melt brings a mess. Winds push trash off pullouts. People leave bait jars and coolers. He says he drags junk to gates because bears get into everything out in the open. He says he meant to sort it later. He says the cap, the jars, the coolers are just junk. Detectives listen. They let him speak. They ask short, clear questions. Where did you go the night the SD card shows a flatbed? Why is your bumper dent the same shape? Why is one tire different? He shrugs. He says dents happen. He says tires blow. He says the camera could be anyone. They slide a photo across the table. It shows the dented bumper from the SD frames. They show a second image of his bumper, taken that morning. The dent lines match. He looks at both. He does not answer. They list the lab notes. Gray paint transfer on his strap that reads consistent with the chip from the dump site strap. 3 matching tires, 1 odd, same as the gate ruts. Lug nuts in his drawer that fit a mid-size SUV like the couple's rental class. Luminol swipes in his shed freezer that suggest cleaning. A tow chain fiber that aligns with the torn backpack strap. He shifts in his chair. He rubs the edge of the table with his thumb. His voice changes. He offers a new version. He says he found an abandoned SUV after the thaw. He says it sat nose down by a culvert on a spur. He says it looked stuck and already wrecked. He says no one was there. He says he checked quick with a flashlight and saw only water and mud. He says he hooked it and hauled it at night to avoid traffic. He says he took it to the Lake Cove because it was the only place to turn the bed. He says the plate was covered in mud from the last job, not on purpose. He says the jars and coolers were old supplies he tossed near the gate. He says the freezer holds bait in winter, and he wiped it because it smelled. Detectives ask why he did not call it in. He says calls take hours. He says no one pays him for waiting. He says he planned to strip parts later. They ask him to draw a map. He marks a culvert near the same cove where the SUV was found. He marks the spur the GPS log last pinged. He marks the gate where the SD camera sat. His pen tracks the route the lab already built. He returns to his first point. He says he never saw the couple. He says he never touched them. He says he moved only metal. Detectives note the shift. First, he denied any link to the truck on the SD card. Now, he admits the haul but calls it salvage. They end the session for the day. They log his timeline and his map. They mark the gaps. If no one was inside, where did they go? Investigators line up the data. Weather, vehicle logs, phone activity, map tiles on their hiking app, bits that speak when people cannot. Weather first. Light drizzle all day. Low cloud on ridges. Evening fog and drainages after sunset. Road shoulders stay soft near culverts where meltwater runs. Vehicle data next. From the infotainment and the control modules, they recover short bursts. Wheel speed spikes on loose gravel. Stability control pulses left, then right. Traction control cuts throttle at low speed. A sharp urate near a culvert coordinate. Then power loss. No airbag deploy. No crash flag from the main sensors. It reads like a slide, not a hard impact. Phones tell partial story. Last normal use is the breakfast photo and a check of messages. After that, the valley has patchy service. Background pings fade. Both phones switch to offline mode without user prompts. Battery levels were healthy that morning. No further cloud backups occur the rest of the day. Maps fill the gap. Their hiking app shows offline tiles saved the night before. The tiles cover the official trailhead and nearby spurs. Not all spurs, just the ones closest to the overlook road. It means they planned for weak signal. It does not mean they saw every fork. Mid-morning, the SUV turns off the highway toward the sign trail. A half-mile later, it veers away onto a side road. Local notes and a lodge binder said, "Try the overlook road if the trail is crowded." This side road begins like that, graded, wide, easy. Then it narrows. An unmarked fork appears. Left holds the main line. Right drops onto a maintenance spur that looks the same at a glance. They likely missed the fork by inches in momentum. The spur is passable for a time. Brush leans in. Ruts deepen. Water crosses the track where a culvert passes under. On soft shoulders, edges crumble. The log suggests what happens next. Low speed. Throttle cuts. A spike. A slide, nose down toward the culvert pool. The SUV's front slips off the firm gravel and settles in muddy water. Not a crash, a settling. Power cut soon after. The infotainment stops writing. Silence from the car's brain. Inside the vehicle later, nothing suggests panic. Seatbelts are unlatched. Windows are closed. Loose items are still in pockets and bins. It looks like people who got out on their own. From there, terrain dictates choices. Downstream is swampy and cold. Uphill leads to a service road and, eventually, the main valley road. Most people choose uphill in low light. Tracks do not hold a mossy duff after drizzle, but a pattern forms from cameras and timing. A neighbor's old motion camera on a private drive, another site, not the gate, records a brief glow at 9:17 p.m. Two headlamps, side by side, moving upslope. They drift in and out of fog, then vanish toward timber. No faces, no body shapes, just two steady points of light together. The model the team writes is careful. Morning, plan a short hike, download tiles, leave the lodge. Late morning, turn off at the overlook road, miss a fork, enter a maintenance spur. Midday, the road edge fails at a culvert. The SUV slides nose down and loses power. Afternoon to night, they exit the vehicle and climb for the service road. 9:17 p.m. Two headlamps appear on a driveway camera. Then fog takes them. This reconstruction leaves room for unknowns. But it does one crucial thing. It places them alive after the slide, moving together, making the right choice. Hours later, someone else moves the silent SUV. That part, the SD card already told. They widen the grid along the ridge line. Fog lifts in thin bands. A team follows an old skid road toward an overlook locals use on clear days. Near the edge, they see a burn ring. Small, neat. Ash sits inside a circle of stones. A tech photographs, wide to close. She screens the ash with a mesh. Out comes a half-melted watchback. On the metal, 2 letters survive, JH. Those initials match our mail alias. She bags it. Time. GPS photo numbers. Under brush, 5 steps away a glint. A folded foil blanket lies half open, dull with pollen. Edges show creases from tight packing. No blood. No tears. It looks used and then stashed. They lift it by corners and slip it into a large pouch. Near a stump, paper threads for moss. A torn map corner. Glossy stock. Blue line for a river. A tiny lodge logo in the margin. Later, staff will match the paper and ink to extra brochures at the front desk. It confirms origin without naming anyone. Dogs work the contour just below the overlook. A handler calls out a soft alert. In a pocket of windbreak, spruce limbs lean into each other. Inside, needles are flattened in an oval. A few pine cones are pushed aside. This is a nest site, the kind people make when they stop and wait. No food waste. No clothing. Just a shape of rest. 10 yards downslope, moss hides a dark rectangle. A tech brushes gently. A foam back cover sits in green. Model and color match the woman's device class. No SIM. No battery. Just the shell. They bag it and mark depth from the trail. The scene tells a simple, careful story. 2 people reach the overlook area. They stayed long enough to light a small, controlled fire. They try to keep warm with a foil blanket. They handled a brochure map, likely as a quick reference. They sheltered out of the wind, close to the trail, not far from a viewpoint. They were together, at least long enough for a watchback and a phone part to end up within a short walk of each other. The team does not speculate on why the phone lost its back. It could be a fall. It could be a repair attempt for a wet battery. They simply log positions and distances. They take one more sweep for metal and find nothing else. Back at the board, the pins connect. Culvert slide, uphill movement, driveway camera at 9:17 p.m. Overlook shelter, burned ring, small clues. The pattern holds. The break is not dramatic. It is a handful of honest pieces. They move the case from lost in the woods to last seen alive beyond the slide. What follows is not guesswork. It is a formal conclusion built from what the clues allow, and no more. The district attorney states the theory in plain terms. After the slide at the culvert, the couple got out on their own. They climbed upslope toward the service road. Evidence supports that route. The driveway camera at 9:17 p.m., the overlook burn ring, the foil blanket, the torn brochure map, and the phone back cover. Nothing shows a hard crash. Vehicle logs read like a slow settle in mud and water. Later, a flatbed arrived. The SD card shows a truck with a distinct dented bumper. The bed carried a mid-size SUV, strapped at the wheels. Time stamps match a warm night when roads were soft. The plate is obscured in the frames. The dent is not. The state alleges the driver was Gareth Pike, alias. He worked cash salvage. He disliked trespassers. He owned a flatbed with 3 matching tires and 1 odd, as seen at the gate ruts and on his truck. His straps carried gray paint transfer that tested consistent with a chip found on the dump site strap. His drawer held 4 lug nuts that fit the Reynolds model class. His shed freezer showed white patterns under luminol. His pegboard chain held fibers consistent with the torn backpack strap found near the gate. According to the DA, Pike reached the culvert after the slide. He found the SUV in shallow water and mud. He did not call it in. He hooked it and winched it. When he saw signs of people nearby, he confronted them and chased them off the area. This point is alleged. It is based on timing, route, and the interview map he drew. It is not proven by a single video clip. The DA says he then concealed his work. He moved the SUV to the lake cove. He obscured the plate. He left bait jars, coolers, and the torn tag cap near a gate to deflect attention. He created a false story, a messy dump instead of a clean tow. These acts changed the search. Without a car at a trailhead, rescuers lost their anchor. Hours became days. Days became winter. Key evidence washed, sank, or went dark. The charging document is careful and specific. Counts include tampering with physical evidence, moving and concealing the SUV and related items, unlawful disposal of a vehicle and regulated materials, obstruction for actions that delayed or hindered the investigation, abuse of corpse, wording varies by jurisdiction, account tied to the alleged mishandling of human remains connected to the case, separate resource violations for bait materials and dumping on protected land. The language stays non-graphic. It focuses on choices, not injury. It cites public records, lab reports, and sworn statements. The theory does not answer every question. It does not claim to know each step in the dark. It does say this: a person, not whether, moved the anchor the search needed. A person hit a vehicle that could have told the truth sooner. The next step is the courtroom. Evidence will be tested under oath. What the jury accepts and what it does not will decide the rest. In court, the case ended with a plea. Gareth Pike, alias, pleaded guilty to obstruction and evidence tampering. The remaining counts were dismissed or merged as part of the agreement. The judge read the sentence slowly. A state prison term measured in years. Supervised release to follow. A ban on salvage work during supervision. Restitution to search teams for fuel, equipment wear, and logistics. Forfeiture of the flatbed and towing gear used in the offense. A no-contact order protecting the families. Statements from the families were brief and careful, paraphrased. We wish the truth had come sooner. Time matters in the woods. Thank you to everyone who searched in the rain and snow. We carry their memory forward. The court noted the harm beyond property. Delays changed the search. Concealment broke the anchor investigators needed. The sentence, the judge said, recognizes choices that hid evidence and cost time. Public record sources closed the file. Charging documents. The plea transcript. The lab summaries. The search logs. No graphic detail. No speculation. Names remain aliases in this program out of respect. On-screen resources for viewers. Search and rescue organizations. State and provincial SAR groups. Volunteer sign-up pages. Donation links. Cold weather safety. Official guidance on hypothermia, gear, and turnback rules. US/CA/UK public health pages. Missing persons tips. How to report quickly. What information to prepare. And how to share updates with authorities. Trail planning. Offline maps, local ranger offices, seasonal road closures, and permit hotlines. Emergency numbers by region. US, Canada, 911. UK, 999 or 112. If you have information about a missing person, call your local non-emergency number first. Then follow the instructions you receive. If someone is in immediate danger, call the number above for your region. For everyone who searches, plans, and reports the small details, thank you. A single photo, a paint chip, or an SD card can change everything. In the end, it wasn't a dramatic confession. It wasn't a perfect footprint or a headline tip. It was a small SD card tucked in a zip bag and a tiny paint chip caught in a strap. Two quiet details. Two simple truths that steered everything. A ranger noticed what didn't fit. A tech logged what didn't look important. Maps, tires, fibers, timestamps. Each was small alone. Together, they formed a path. If you ever see something that feels off, a camera facing the wrong way, a fresh dent, tape where a plate should be, write it down. Take a photo if it's safe and legal. Report it. Small things matter. They respect the families. They save teams time. They bring people home faster. We kept names as aliases and stayed non-graphic for a reason. This story belongs to real people who loved and were loved. Thank you to the searchers, the volunteers, and the locals who spoke up. If this helped you think about safety and reporting, share it. If you're heading outdoors, tell someone your plan, carry a light, and download maps. Subscribe to the channel for careful investigations. Turn on the bell so you don't miss the next video.